How you guys doing today? It's Anthony Ganji. Welcome to another episode of Tear Talk. Guys, we have been discussing the Sebastian Rogers case. The other day, I put up a full detailed narrative about what happened. It is a very interesting case. By the way, December 7th would be Sebastian's 17th birthday. February 25th or the 26th of next year will be that he's been missing for 2 years. But the question is, what happened? He looks to go to bed around 9. You hear a thud around 10. Tells his mom he's okay, and around 11 p.m. on February 25th, mom goes to sleep, and we never see Sebastian again. 6 in the morning, she tries to wake him up. He's not there. And basically there is someone that just kind of goes missing, and there's just no one knows what happened. And there's so many scenarios. I have Russ. There's so many scenarios. That's why I have Russ on, so we could discuss a few. But I just want to make sure everybody knows, if you're not familiar with this case, please watch the other video I've done on it, because as of right now, we're just going to go right into this discussion because there's a lot here to cover. And if you guys like the material, don't forget, I do have Buy Me a Cup of Coffee. It is what do you call it? It is in the description for me and Russ, mine and Russ's, and I also have a top of the YouTube channel. But Russ, this is an interesting case. When I gave it to you, I mean, even you were perplexed, right? It's like this little boy at the time, 15 years old, just disappears from the face of the earth.
Yeah, what really struck me is the fact that we know so much in this case about so little. Everything, has, pointed to a complete mystery with regards to the disappearance. Even though there's been some acrimony between some of the parties involved, and I mean his family, of course, and not going into all of those dynamics. It still appears, for all intents and purposes, that he just completely disappeared off the face of the earth. And so, what I did was I just started thinking, hey, what are the most likely scenarios? From what we've seen, even though the police have not necessarily, cleared anyone, they also haven't really, came out and named anyone as a suspect either. And we have this really nailed down to a very narrow period of time between about 10 o'clock at night and 6 a.m. in the morning where this happened. There's good video of everything that happened, from the restaurant all the way to where he got home. And then even all through the night on top of that. And there is nothing that indicates what happened to this kid. And so that's why it's so disturbing. There are no hot leads. There's no smoking gun. There's no, we're just gonna put the pressure on this person until they cave. There's none of that in this. And so that's one of the things that just makes you go, what on earth happened to this kid? The answer is there somewhere.
And you know what, Russ, you're spot on, because what got me upset about this case, and guys, remember, if you want the details, please follow the other video, but just real quick, there's so much of a divide here. I mean, you got to divide between the Proudfoots. So that's Katie. She's Sebastian's real mother. And that's Chris. He is the stepfather of Sebastian. But then you have Seth, who's the real father. He's divorced from Katie. That's Seth with Sebastian. And they each have their own private investigators. They each seem to be working in isolation of each other. They're not sharing information. I would actually say at some point they're competing with each other. And I'll be honest with you. One guy's got Dog the Bounty Hunter. And this one's got SF Investigates. One is wants to be more public, wants to kind of make it known what's happening. He's not afraid to go on media. This one, the other side, the Proudfoots are more quiet. They're working with law enforcement more directly, where Seth feels he's not getting any information. And the funny thing is, then you have the investigators with their own agenda. I'm sorry, guys, I'm not a big fan of SF Investigates. And Dog the Bounty Hunter is probably more for publicity. Again, hopefully they're doing the right thing, but the right thing would be push our egos aside. What do you have? What do we have? And let's figure this out, because I think also a lot of it seems to be impossible because it's piecemealed information that's not being shared and kind of finding out where those overlaps are. Because, working in a prison system, one thing I've learned is if something doesn't make sense, I mean, sometimes maybe you're not asking the right question. That's what me and Russ are trying to do today. Or sometimes you're either being misled. There's just not enough information because, again, the police haven't really released anything. Sorry, guys. And remember, the police really haven't released anything, or you could be being lied to, and that makes matters even worse. But what's your thoughts on all this, Russ?
So, we know that something had to have happened to him. And so, I kind of, went through and I kind of like, drummed up 4 or 5 potential scenarios. And I mean, I went deep into my own mind, just trying to think how this could have gone. And, the first thing that I came up with, and kind of maybe a little bit hopeful, maybe a little bit naive, considering the amount of time that's passed, was I came up with the idea of some third party and him interacting in a non-criminal manner, where they just decided, hey, they were going to get together and they were just going to leave. And that seemed kind of unlikely. It seems like something fanciful that a kid like him might get involved in. But it also seems like something that would wear thin very quickly, and that he would have been back by now. And so, these are the kind of things when you're a kid, you have all kinds of, fantasies about how you and your best friend are going to, run away and go live in the woods, kind of a my side of the mountain kind of thing. And it's just really not, born out of any kind of reality. And so that one I kind of dismiss out of hand at this point. And I call that my, left willingly with a third party scenario. And it kind of dovetails into another one that I had that I called my left alone by himself, which was the My Side of the Mountain style. If you've ever read the book My Side of the Mountain, it's about a kid that decides he's going to go live in the woods and do his own thing. But it's the kind of fanciful thing that a child like this might actually think he would be capable of pulling off. I don't know him, but just knowing that.
Well, remember, he's autistic,
yes.
And he has that chromosomal. What it's is it Q627? It's something that basically affects. He's not as social, but I want to mention something though. Sometimes we're told, is it SQ6? But either way, sometimes we're told something, and and it just becomes anchored in our head that we can't see past it. I know big focus was the door, because it locked from the inside. The shoes, he didn't take his shoes out with him, so it must have been impulsive, or it must have been planned. Well, he can't plan because he's autistic. I don't know about all that, because remember, he had a concern with his stepfather, Chris, where he actually lied to Child Protective Services. So I'm sure he believed the lie would have served a motive. So I don't want to say he can't long-term plan. And like Russ said, some people may say, well, he's autistic. Yeah, but that doesn't mean I'm going to stay away from that they can't long-term plan, because once I read that he did have a concern with Child Protective Services where he got caught lying and it was unfounded. I mean, that unfounded literally means that there's a contradiction to the evidence of his narrative. Then that means that usually that contradiction usually means if it contradicts the evidence, then it's unfounded. And they even told him you can't lie. But basically, I think that in my mind, Sebastian is very close to his real father. And because I noticed that there were some concerns, and I could be wrong. Maybe I'm 100% wrong. I don't know. But there were some concerns in the past with Chris and Sebastian. At one point, Chris hitting, I think, over the clothes, Sebastian with a belt. Now, I would have a problem with that if Sebastian was my child and I'm his father and you're hitting my child with a belt. I would have a very big problem with that. That's my child. If there's anything with discipline, if you're hitting that's not for you to do. That's my child. We'll figure it out. If I found out someone was hitting my daughter, if I was divorcing my wife and somebody started hitting my daughter, I'm taking the daughter out of the household. But either way, I don't know how deep that investigation went, because he was still allowed to be in the home. But I think there was a stronger relationship with Sebastian's father than maybe, I could be wrong, but maybe with the mother, because I don't really see, I mean, at least at that little moment where they're interacting, and I could be wrong, there seems to be a bit of a disconnect, maybe. I don't know, but could be. But with that said, now you got these two camps are at war, and now we're stuck with the impossibility of how does a person just leave the house and just totally disappear? So like Russ said, you're either going to have something impulsive with everybody's trying to kind of embrace that narrative by using the shoe. But then people can test that narrative by saying, well, the door locked on the inside or the door locked from the outside or whatever it is. It could have been planned if he had a key. It's becoming too confusing. We're focusing on things that may be relevant or may not be relevant. So like if you did what Russ said and kind of generalize it out, what do you have, Russ? You have impulsivity, planned, picked up, abducted, or lured.
Right. But in addition to those things, you have factoids which may or may not be true. When we look at the shoes, all the shoes were accounted for. Really? Are we 100% sure about that? Do we know that either he may have cached some shoes somewhere for a rainy day? Maybe he did think far enough ahead that he was going to do something. Did a third party introduce some shoes and tell him, hey, you should keep these around, just in case you and me ever have to get out of here? When we start getting, too nitty gritty, the truth of the matter is that no one, at least in our circle, is close enough to this case to definitively say much about that other than kind of as a guideline, in my opinion. The next kind of, step that I was looking at, I personally think this is the most likely. It's a very scary scenario. It's also hopeful because I think that it could be, some long-term predation occurring where he might still be alive. Because I think that what may have happened, in my opinion, was he could have been groomed into leaving by a third party. And this might have involved, either a lot of time or not a lot of time. But it may have included, at least on the part of the person that's, doing the predatory actions. They spent a lot of time plotting it out. They spent a lot of time and effort manipulating themselves into that position to be able to pull this off. I looked at the houses in that area. They all have tree lines across backyards, which would be really indicative of, what they saw, or at least we believe that they saw from Katie's car camera is that, there were no other cars up and down that area of road. And that means somebody had to be operating in the dark. Somebody had to be operating in the shadows, and they weren't coming in there with a car. They had to have come in from some other angle. And I think that that's the reason why this idea stands out. It just seems like something that someone planning long-term was able to do, because nothing else was taken. The dogs may have never got to a position where they actually cut the track, because they may have assumed that, hey, the guy had to have come from some other direction. He could have been carried across that lawn into the woods. He could have made it himself if he was given some clothing to discourage, the dogs being able to cut that track. And I know a little bit about that with regards to the way that I grew up. So I think that the being groomed by a third party is probably
right.
the most likely scenario.
Right. And there's a couple of things that support that. So Russ, by the way, so for the people out there, listen, we're given a child that disappeared in the night. So when we're giving out these examples or possible scenarios, they seem extreme because we're trying to make it fit, which technically could be good or bad, because technically it's meant to give you a starting point, but we're trying to make these impossibilities fit. There was an Amber Alert, and a lot of people believe that when the Amber Alert was done, which brought the FBI in, there may have been foul play. But I also believe that when the police or when law enforcement, the county, Sumner County, whatever, was given all this information, and at the end of the day, they're looking at this video and nothing makes sense, maybe through deduction, they said, you know what? We can't really prove he wasn't taken. Maybe it makes sense that he could have been, like Russ said. However, unlikely, we don't know, but maybe we should go ahead and release the Amber Alert. So maybe the Amber Alert wasn't based on anything definitive, but rather was based because they had to do it, because they couldn't prove anything else otherwise. Because again, for me, the problem is it's just weird. But there's no video footage of the front of the house, and there's no video footage of the door, so we know that. So there's no way they're going to catch him leaving. But they were able to get tons of footage of the neighborhood, and the footage that was recovered has all been debunked, including SF Investigates, Mystery Figure. And I don't care what he says. If law enforcement has went through it, I'm just going to go by what law enforcement says. And then you got the lights and those being garbage trucks, not people wandering around. And, you know, so you got no footage out there that shows him wandering around or leaving. And then again, all you have is what the mother says in the house in this time frame of somewhere between 10 p.m. and 6 a.m. Now, granted, if you left that at 10 p.m., that's 8 hours to get moving. And if you left at 5:30, let's say, not that much time because the mother soon called who she needed to call soon after that. But to not have even any video, Russ, of a car coming down. Remember, Russ, we already know, guys, that he got home. I learned that today. There's dash cam footage, all that stuff. I wish I would have had that when I did the other show, but there's enough there. TBI, Tennessee Bureau of Investigations, has said there's enough there to know that he's been home, but right now they don't have enough to show that as if he ever left the house. Got it. So now we know that we do have this specific time frame. But now the funny thing is, okay, so, you know, if he was picked up, you would have to have seen somebody in that neighborhood, a car. Remember when Kohlberger, you saw the car circling around, you know, you saw things, but they would have came up and said it. Guys, there was a car coming around that was whatever, green SUV, whatever it was. They would have saw the car. There's no way in my mind, because I have a video. There was this guy, Russ. Here, I want to show you something. I have a video of the neighborhood. Actually. There was a guy that did a whole video of the neighborhood. Let me, Russ, while I look for the video, you have anything you want to say on what I just said? Why I find the video? Because I want to ask you something. I'm going to show you this video. And
yeah,
by the way,
I can take it. I can take a little bit more while we're doing this. So you know, I also looked into a few you know, less likely, not impossible, somewhat improbable scenarios. And while he's trying to locate that, I'll just mention this is one thing that I know a little bit about the terrain in Tennessee is they have this what's called, you know, karst terrain, and a lot of it has to do with, you know, limestone being eaten away by acidic rain and all kinds of things, and it can form caverns and it can form sinkholes, and it's not unheard of, you know, that some people have slipped down into some relatively small areas and, you know, been gone, you know, yeeted out of existence until the body is found at a much later time. I think it's really, really unlikely because if it was likely, we would hear more tales and folklore and kind of things about that. But I did look into it because I wanted to consider it, because thinking about, you know, him maybe being outside, running across the lawn, maybe even deciding, you know, he's going to, you know, walk off into the woods a little ways or something like that. What could happen? And so that seemed like something that was worth looking into. But I discount that almost out of hand. It's possible, but it's very improbable. So, you know, kind of coming. Yeah. Did you find it?
Yeah, but yeah, you want to finish? Well, can I show you something real quick?
Yeah, let's take a look at this.
Watch this. So this guy repeats a lot.
Servers on the scene. It is Saturday, March 22nd.
I want to show you something. He's going to go past. So this is at night. Actually, I wanted the day one. Damn it. I wanted to show you the day, but I guess we could show you at night. Here, hold on. Can't get a win here. Hold on.
Check that out. Okay, so what I was doing there, I have two cameras running. You're going to see both
Dark
views.
street.
Lower, I have my cell phone running, and it does low light really good. So you'll notice that one of the videos is going to brighten with my lights, my car lights, whereas the other one is my dash cam. Now that particular one is going to be much lower light. So if you notice when I just cut the lights off, it got really dark on one. it's illuminated more with the cell phone because it does low light. Just want to explain that. So what we're doing is we're coming. Chris with the mob crew has been doing great work. We are not going to go down, I think it's Devon Court. We're just going to do a turn right here, much like allegedly the car did the night Sebastian went missing.
So about the, yeah,
we're
but
just
that's
doing that turn.
Car wasn't related to the incident.
And when we do that turn, I want to do this right here. Here we go again.
How dark that street is.
Just unbelievably dark. I'm doing it really quick because it's 11 p.m. at night, Friday night. I think it's March 21st. And we, you know, people could come in and out the neighborhood. Now, this is the next test we're going to do. And we're real cautious of the neighbors, and people could be coming in. We didn't want to come too late or definitely too early, but I think you can see how dark it is when we cut those lights off. We are now about to make the turn onto, we're on Kellen now. We're about to make the turn off
that they lived on.
Of, oh no. Oh, wow. They're in there working. Okay, so that kind of threw us off. It hit. Wow.
So remember, Russ, his family, Proudfoot's no longer lived there. They moved soon after.
Correct.
So go ahead and turn that. See how dark it is? Okay, I didn't want to make that too long. Okay, so let me just tell you what happened. Oh, God, I don't even think I had that on video. Like, I'm thrown off. Okay, so, oh, Silver's on the scene is whack. Okay, look how dark the house is. Oh, my goodness. Oh, my goodness. Oh, my goodness. Okay. So we didn't expect the house with the security camera, their garage doors open and they're working. And I didn't want to cut my lights off because I don't want to raise any kind of suspicion. We're just trying to see how dark it is. Once again, we'll do it right here. This is Stafford Court, right? I mean, you can't see anything. Ladies and gentlemen, it's amazing. You can't see anything. You see little beams of light coming off different houses. That's it. But take a look at this right here.
You guys living dangerously.
Yeah, because that's pretty dark, that street.
Proudfoot home. Doing this with my cell phone. They've got the garage lights on. There's Sebastian's sign still
up. You got the lower screen.
But look how dark the house is. And as I said, this phone has low light. So you can see some of their house still, but it is dark. They have no lights on. And so we're back where we were. And
yeah,
you saw it, right?
Yeah.
And I'll just show you here. So I didn't get to do the full test. Look, there's lights here now. Look at that. There's a light there lighting up that wasn't there. But look here, I don't want to invade on privacy with this guy here. He's got his garage thing open, right? And he's outside now too. So like I said, if I would have cut lights off, he would have got very suspicious. Don't want anything, don't want to cause any trouble. Look, somebody's got their fireplace on and that smells really good. It wasn't a complete bust. You know, the thing about coming into a neighborhood like this, after all they've gone through, and, you know, say his name, Sebastian Rogers, and missing all this time, over a year, you have to understand that, you know, this neighborhood's on high alert. We just identified a
yeah, that's fine. You figure that after this incident happened, they would put some street lights on that street. But Russ, it is dark, correct?
Yeah. Yeah, that's and that's that may have been one of the things that attracted an individual to that area.
All right, Russ. Can I say that again, Russ?
So that may have been, that may have been the kind of thing that originally attracted someone to that area.
You see, that's a good point, Russ.
You want to operate in darkness. You don't want people asking you questions. You want to be able to use the tree lines, and that's kind of one of those things that hey, that may be the thing that points a direction towards somebody.
So this guy has got, pretty much all his videos are about Sebastian Rogers. Got a bit of an obsession. I know it sounds crazy, but he may be the first person I would want to look into. But hold on. There was one that showed you. Let me try one more thing. Hold on. Is that the video we just saw? There was one where he goes down a neighborhood. He goes down it during the day. That's going to be hard to find, but it shows you what the neighborhood looks like during the day. But Russ, you got to figure there could have been, if you saw a car coming down that street, obviously if they had their lights on, you would easily see it because it would contrast with the dark, but they never really caught any vehicles coming out. With over 100 hours of video footage that was at least reviewed by SF Investigates, and I'm sure the LAPD, I find it kind of hard that anybody was he got abducted or that he got picked up by a vehicle, because wouldn't that have been seen? Okay, if you don't have video footage of Sebastian leaving the house, then the next thing you would look for is anybody coming on the block.
Right, and that's one of the things that I pointed back to about the tree line, because the tree lines lead back to other areas. They lead back to other roads. They lead back to other places that weren't really being looked at. And so, Russ,
with your theory, then that's a good point. So, with your theory, if they're managing the tree lines or whatever it is, or if it's someone very familiar with the neighborhood, would they then decide, maybe we should, which they could have, I don't know, go to the neighbors?
Yeah, what do you mean? Who goes to the neighbor? The investigators?
I'm saying the law enforcement, like maybe everybody, because they searched 44,000 square. It was like 4.5 miles, but maybe technically it could be something as close as the neighbors was. They could probably be watching him, have a chance to have a connection with him. How do we know it's that far out? How do we know it's not more close?
Well, I think that I don't think that they can know definitively that it isn't. I'm sure that they did. Walk and talk and knocks throughout all of those neighborhoods. The thing that I think though is if you're gonna spend all the time doing surveillance like that, you're gonna want to be able to get away from the crime area, because otherwise, people are gonna keep canvassing and recanvassing. I think that the tree lines provided a way to get away and to get to other parts of the neighborhood further away and get to places where a parked vehicle would not necessarily have been noticed.
Yeah, but you figure it. So I agree with that, but I don't know how widespread they check surveillance cameras. I'm thinking that if you can't see him, obviously you can't see him leaving the house at all, but you figure if they were walking a big distance, somewhere along the line, they would have caught him, or if they was driving the big distance, they would have caught something. But maybe it wasn't such a crazy distance, or maybe they're looking for a car when maybe it's not a car. Maybe it's someone that's just close by, and it could make sense because maybe he's familiar with the individual.
Yeah,
what else makes sense? If you can't see him on this video because you're trying to stretch wider, what's the next thing to do? Maybe zoom in?
Yeah, well, I think that that they probably lost the initiative, early on, because I think that they were focusing in the area where they thought the most likely access was from, and so they nailed down where all of those cars were and what may have been going back and forth past there. But beyond that, you know, in other neighborhoods, across other tree lines that lead to other roads. You know, they've just got, you know, some probably bad footage of some potential cars that haven't panned out into any actual leads. You don't know who those cars were. And you know, right now, as far as we know, there's nothing that's come in off of, you know, any kind of other search warrants with regards to other potential geofence type activity in that area. So
you think, so obviously if we can come to a conclusion, because it really is not, we don't think he walked away on his own. We think somewhere along the line, there was an involvement from a third party.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I've thought it through in every way that I can think. I just don't see the kid, you know, operating even with someone else who I would, you know, term as a friendly, you know, a girlfriend or a good friend or someone that he met that's not, you know, acting in a predatory way toward him. I think like that kind of kid, you know, he's going to get lonely and anxious after a day or two or an hour or two. And so I don't think any friendlies are involved in this.
Yeah, I mean, the other option would be that he's still in the house, which I'm pretty sure that we know that that's not true.
Yeah.
Obviously he's not still. So guys, it is completely baffling. I mean, you see how dark the neighborhood is. I mean, you figure at this point, maybe the biggest thing that we can learn from this is that they got to put up some street lights in that area because it's extremely dark. But as I was watching these videos, the investigators say that there's a lot of cameras out there. So a lot of them truly believe that, you know, once he got a little further from the house, something would have picked him up or someone would have picked up a third party. So, you know, what are we leaning on here? I mean, I don't even care so much about the shoes anymore. Like Russ said, I really don't care so much about impulsivity, or I don't want to get too lost in decision-making or impulsivity, even though I'm sure I think right now it's too confusing. I think the main part is we have to believe he left the house. We have to believe that, right, Russ? Would you say that we have to believe that
Yes.
he left the house? And then at this point here, if we believe that it left his house, because again, we can go back and forth about whether he didn't wear shoes or not, and what does that mean, or whether the door locked from the inside or out, what does that mean? The point is, we know he left his house, and then somewhere from leaving his house, I don't know, there's no end point there. Somewhere from leaving his house to he disappears. God, yep. It's just unfathomable. It doesn't make any sense. Because my only thing is, Russ, before we wrap up, Russ, my only thing is my mind cannot shake the fact that something would have been seen on camera that was relevant. And even if the police are holding on into information, it's almost going to be 2 years. They would have released it by now because obviously they need help. Again, the police will go to the public usually out of desperation when they need help, when they need leads, because they know going to the public is like a double-edged sword. Because I can go to the public and now we get all these false leads. So they really, when they go to the public, it's usually strategic. Now that it hasn't been moving, I don't know if it's not a closed case, it's a cold case, which means it's still active. You figure if, you know, at this point, if there was any information that can help narrow this down, including confirmation from PD, because the PD only, the county sumner, or whatever it is, only comes out to debunk something, which is what I've seen so far. Oh, there was this guy, SF investigates, finds this guy at 1217. They debunked it. 2 lights, it could have been people with flashlights. They debunked it as a garbage truck or whatever it was. So they come out to debunk. And like Seth says, he doesn't know if they come out to offer new information. But with that said, Seth, I think, would tell people, because Seth is very open with the public as opposed to the Proudfoots, or more importantly, Katie, who's just really working with police and being more secretive. So if they had something on video of a car or a person, definitely of Sebastian, I would have to assume, Russ, that would have been released by now. Would you agree?
You would think so, unless they have some other lead that involves that. So I think that, you know, this is about as far as they've been able to push it. It doesn't appear that they've developed any new leads. It doesn't appear that they've been able to exhaust the leads that they've had, meaning that they've hit dead ends. And so, and that's why this one, it's a true mystery. It's a true mystery in the fact that they don't have any active leads other than the theoretical, or I should say, probably not even the theoretical, probably other than the hypothetical, which is what we're doing here. We're hypothesizing, based on what little we know. And so I think that's probably really, bothering them, that they can't move the ball down the field at all.
And that thud, that 10 p.m. thud, there's just so many things that when I searched on this, Russ, that they want you to focus on. But then, to be honest with you, it makes matters more confusing. I like what we did today. At least let it know. Listen, disregard at this time. That he left the house. We believe he left the house because we could assume that they checked the house. I'm sure the dogs, if there was a body there, the dogs would have known that. They would have hit that because the strength of the smell. And then somewhere along the line, he wanders out into this dark street, which, come on, let's get some street lights on that street. And he disappears into thin air. He outright disappears because you have to assume that, because I'm going to go with me and Russ. You have to assume this information would have been released. So from our perspective, from the public, you really can't help, because all we think about is he disappeared from the thin air. So the only thing I can say right now, Russ, and hopefully we get to revisit this later on, is people don't just disappear in thin air. So either we're not being told something, and that's fine. Maybe they're protecting something, because there's definitely something missing here, or there's a lie. Somewhere 100%. Someone's lying. Because, Russ, there's got to be a missing piece, because if not, we have an impossible situation.
Well, it's there. It's there. The answer is there. Maybe it's even something as unlikely as some of the other things that I posited.
Well, what's the one you're leaning on the most before we end? So if you want to go into the closing, the one that I 100% believe is that he was groomed by an outside source. I believe that outside source either came in and carried him away, or provided some sort of countermeasure clothing, perhaps because he envisioned the dogs coming after him, and managed to lure him out and get him out there. And that would take care of some of the angles of the shoes and things like that. So that's the one that to me seems the most likely. And the main reason that it seems the most likely to me is that it answers some of the other things that we're just, completely befuddled about. And the Amber Alert.
Yes, and the Amber Alert.
And I remember, guys, as highly unlikely you guys may think it is, you got to go by what's provided to you. But the only thing is what Russ did is pretty much he let the evidence speak, and that's what led to that. For me, what I would lean on, based on how I see things, because the only thing that I believe Russ's scenario is one of the more likely ones, but my only argument with Russ's scenario would be I think they would be able to keep track somehow of a grooming relationship. I would like to think so, but I'm going to partner my theory with Russ, because if that grooming relationship wasn't digital and it was made by someone that was a little bit more closer by, like a neighbor, that fits in a lot, because he didn't travel far, so less likely chance to be seen. Don't need a car. It's right here. Don't need digital forensics because I'm his neighbor. And I see him every time on I almost said third shift, overnight. Maybe I'm the guy that comes by his window every night and chats with him. I mean, I don't know. I'm just, but there wouldn't be a need for, if it is grooming, there wouldn't be any digital forensics, maybe, because maybe the relationship grew from just the interaction they had, maybe when he's close to Sebastian's window. So I'm going to go with Russ's theory, but I'm going to add a caveat. Just to kind of touch on the fact that there's nothing else that can be caught on camera, is maybe he's groomed by someone that's a bit more closer to home. I mean, would that be reasonable, Russ?
I think for me, I think that one is a little bit more problematic, because I think that that person would have tipped their hand with regards to being close enough to him to talk about him more. That person would certainly have ended up on a list of people that they investigated and talked to further. That doesn't completely rule it out, but I think that
nobody's been ruled out yet. Like you said,
I don't mean that. I don't mean that they've ruled them out in that sense. What I mean is that they've been able to approach them and talk to them and get nothing else from them. It's not a person that they've ruled in. It's not a person that they've necessarily ruled out. It's just a person who knew them. They think right now that they've exhausted pretty much all of the leads. I think that
but yet they don't definitively.
Do you really? I mean, if you're that person, do you really want the FBI coming around every couple of weeks and seeing if you remembered something more?
No, but let me ask you. I get that harassment. I get that, but let me ask one more question before we go. You got me thinking, Russ, real quick, and then we'll go. Listen, they say that they didn't clear anybody at this point, but they did say something to the extent of no foul play, right? Was that it? What was the exact verbiage again? Let me give you the exact verbiage. What was the verbiage the police said about no foul play and not clearing anyone? I want to mention something with the verbiage. I have it in my notes. It's we have not cleared anyone, but we have no evidence to support foul play. Now, hear me out. But yet you still have the Amber Alert. So I think the Amber Alert, if you look at this statement, Russ, hear me out. The Amber Alert was a universal precaution. I really think it was. If you go by that statement, it says we have not cleared anyone, but we have no evidence to support foul play, but they have no evidence to deny that there's foul play. So like we said, so I don't think when they did the Amber Alert, it was definitive. It was more of universal precaution. I get it. But Russ, when he says we have not cleared anyone, he didn't say we did not, like family, we did not clear anyone. In my mind, anyone is something personal, connected somehow, even as a neighbor. It's not stranger. It's, it's more of the expectation that we have of who anyone could be. Who would I think of? Family first, of course. A nearby neighbor, of course. You go through proximity first. And I think when they're saying that, I honestly think that maybe there could be a chance that it could be someone that's a bit closer. Maybe. And it's not a complete stranger. Because it has to be someone the boy knows, correct? In your theory?
Well, it has to be someone that the boy believes he knows.
Yeah, I get that. I know what you mean. All right. Okay, so that's interesting. I would love to know who their anyone is, the scope of their anyone. I would love to know who it was. But again, guys, he'll be 17 December 7th. We'll keep him, we'll try to figure out if there's any other areas we can expand on. But a boy doesn't just disappear in the middle of the night. So, I mean, the only thing I would say here that I picked up was maybe search closer to home. And Russ has Russ's biggest concern is the tree line, correct?
Yeah, I certainly believe that that's the egress route. It is the egress route. I think we can definitively say that we've proved that somewhere in that tree line is the egress route, because there were no egress routes on the other side that was facing the road.
So then the only question would be, Russ, was he taken out of the house, or did he walk out of the house? Now, if it's a complete stranger, nobody he's aware of, then he'd have to have been taken out of the house, in my mind. But if it's someone that he had some connection with, then, like your theory, he would have been lured out. Yeah,
I think the reason that I lean toward kind of a little bit more of a grooming or lured out thing is he's easier to handle that way. He's going to make less of a commotion. I believe higher chance of success. If you have to throw a 115-pound kid over your shoulder, I mean, if you're in good condition, you can go a couple 100 yards, but it's easier if he's walking under his own power. It's easier if he's happy, and he's not going to call out or scream or squirm or struggle. And so the chance for success from the point of view of the predator goes up.
What do you think the result will be of this? You think we'll ever find him?
I believe we'll find him. I believe he'll be found alive. I think that the person that did this probably did enough planning that's what the whole plan is to keep him alive for a long period of time.
For nefarious reasons, though, right?
Yes, for nefarious reasons, things that I don't really want to say.
No, I get it.
But in a way that's hopeful, though. In a way that's a better outcome than you see in other situations like this, where it was spur of the moment or that kind of thing. Here in California, we had J.C. Dugard. In Utah, there was Elizabeth Smart, all recovered after long periods of time.
Kind of reminds us of the Melody Buzzard case a little bit. I mean, do you think we'll ever find?
So I think that there's probably maybe less hope in that one, from my opinion, but still a little bit of hope. And so that's a good thing, and maybe he'll turn up. Maybe he'll even turn up. Maybe it won't be as nefarious. Maybe it will be something that he decided he was going to do, and he just left and then came back. But that's fanciful, and that's wishful, and that's probably not realistic.
All right, guys. So I'm going to be doing the Rebecca Park one tomorrow. Give out the information, and me and Russ will have a deep dive of that. But tomorrow I got to set the video up and give you a lot of information. It's a lot for that Rebecca Park case, and then me and Russ could do a more simpler dialogue. But that case is pretty much, it's a sad situation. What happens, we already got the people responsible. This is a lot harder because there's so many things unknown. So, Russ, anything you'd like to say in closing? Don't forget, guys, I do have Buy Me a Coffee if you would like to support the channel or support either me or Russ. Russ, anything in closing?
Yeah, I think that this is the kind of case that it's heartbreaking from one perspective. From another perspective, it's it's kind of a little bit hopeful, because maybe if there's enough buzz, maybe if there's enough people talking about it, maybe if we there's a reward, I believe. I wasn't even thinking about that earlier.
I think it's $500,000, 50 from the FBI, and maybe 450 from the bounty hunter side.
Yeah. So kudos to those people that came up with the reward. And, I would hope that, maybe somebody who knew something would go, oh yeah, and pick up the phone and dial. And so who knows?
My closing remark basically is, you look at this, it does initially make sense. I mean, we try to make sense, but maybe there's something law enforcement isn't telling us, but Seth would know, I would think, because he should be in the loop. But again, we could be doing all this, but they could have the missing key. So what's impossible to us may not be impossible to them. It's just, I have a feeling, in my opinion, even though we try to do some narrowing it down, there's something that they know that we don't know. There has to be. There's no other way around it. How do you not see something pick up this child? There's got to be something caught in this neighborhood that they may be, like Russ said, maybe focusing on that they haven't released to us. But that doesn't mean they haven't told the families and said, hey, maybe they'll tell the families keep quiet. But it's just an interesting scenario. As always, guys, the show is Tear Talk. Stay safe.